Okay, welcome back into Tunes Brothers. Seems like it's been forever. I am Rob, and that is the Oz King Tommy.
What up, guys?
The only two Tunes Brothers that matter nowadays, apparently. Scott is MIA. Darren is busy being a father. Anyway, we were supposed to have Glenn from Tales of a Kiss Geek on here. He hasn't replied to me for the Kiss album, which I'm starting to think is trying to tell us something because this final album is not going to be good. But nevertheless, we will get to it when we get to it. With or without Glenn, the overseas stuff is really a challenge with the massive time difference, and it puts a strain on everybody's work, personal life here to get it in. So it is what it is. So Tommy came up with a good idea, and we're going to talk about basically the voice, the man behind, and basically the guy that is Kiss, Paul Stanley. Your thoughts, Tom?
Greatest front man to ever walk a stage. Pushed his voice for 50 plus years to where the condition is now. People complain he don't sound like he's 25. Go listen to older records. Right. Fuck him. Go listen to older records. I've seen him live 3 times, and he was amazing. Of course, I had the unfortunate viewing of the Monster Tour, and his voice was completely out of whack. But again, I wasn't expecting Paul Stanley to sound like he did, Hot in the Shade plus years back.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I was guilty early on. I was just cringing when he'd start losing his voice and people be putting that up on YouTube. But you know what? Every time I went, oops, my camera cut out. Every time I went to see him live, he surprised me. I went in just expecting the worst, and people can say backtracks all they want. That's used minimally, so whatever. But the bottom line is, you're right, the greatest frontman. And I say that, yes, David Lee Roth was a great frontman, and that's obviously the one everybody's going to point to. But at a certain time, gymnastics and sword twirling only gets you so fucking far when you don't have a front man's voice. So say what you want about him visually. I would argue Elvis Presley was more physical and better to watch than David Lee Roth. Probably the original front man, right? Because everybody else was just standing there with their bowl haircuts and their suits playing guitars.
Well, you have Elvis, and then you had people that moved like Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
Like you said, Rob, you're right. Most of them, just stood in one place. Elvis, hit that stage and he started to move.
And I don't know about Chuck Berry. I never saw any live footage of him, but Elvis interacts with the crowd. He interacts with the band. He had fun up there. He was laughing and joking. He had charisma that wouldn't quit. David Lee Roth certainly comes to mind for most people who are in the hard rock and metal genre, but David Lee Roth's voice compared to Paul Stanley's voice is like comparing a turd to a piece of steak. So you got to have it all. I would also argue beyond Paul Stanley that Janie Lane was a better frontman than David Lee Roth. Better voice, more interaction with the crowd. And it's to each its own preference, but Paul Stanley never gets credit for that frontman role. And let's see David Lee Roth do all the dance moves, jumps, and kicks that Paul was doing with a guitar strapped around his neck. It's real easy to be a front man, physically when you're just holding the fucking mic stand.
No, I get that. And the thing is, honestly, when it comes to Van Halen, I prefer Sammy Hagar more than David Lee Roth. And at least the Sammy Hagar albums, I don't think he talks throughout all the albums. I haven't really listened to any of them because
Me neither, because they became too keyboard and radio play for me. I definitely respect Sammy Hagar's voice more than David Lee Roth. As far as a front man goes, I really couldn't tell you. I checked out after I gave him a chance, and 5150 came out. There was a couple good tunes, but it was clear that this was going to be more of a pop radio band than a rock band, so I just kind of checked out on that.
Sorry about that. I keep leaning over because my cat keeps meowing at me.
No, that's fine. So yeah, anyway, this is not a Van Halen rant. It's just Tom brings up a good point by calling him the greatest frontman, because that is the one thing that Paul does not get credit for, at least nearly on the level that he should. And you know, he's overshadowed in the makeup days by Gene with the blood and the demon face and the fire and everything. Clearly, he was Kiss through the 80s as far as the face and the voice. He's always been the voice. Gene's never been one who talks on stage. Thank
How?
God, because there'd be nothing worse than in the middle of, you know, right after God of Thunder, he goes in a rant about, you know, how many fucking patents he owns and how he invented, you know, fire, and God help us. So thank God they were smart enough to keep his mouth out the microphone on stage.
I mean, there's a couple of times where they let him loose, and it was a terrible mistake. Especially their video I watched on YouTube where he was in a comedy roast, and the comedian's just mocking the hell out of him, and he quoted Paul Stanley on something, and the camera points at Gene, and he just does an impression of Gene and goes, "You know what Paul just said is absolutely true." And I just started laughing, and I'm like, man, that nowadays it makes sense. Like Paul, honestly, when it came to interviews, I feel like he could say anything about the band, and next thing I know, their ticket sales are through the roof.
Paul was definitely the rock star. Gene was
Absolutely.
the merchandise guy who just wanted to get laid. He was all gimmick image with very little substance. Paul was what made that band. I mean, Paul was the Robert Plant of Kiss. It's just the way it is.
And not to mention, he was a cab driver. Yeah, you know, a cab driver that could sing, man, and became a legend. Anyone, you know, that just goes to show.
Yeah.
I've read his book. Honestly, I think his book was more truthful than the others. I haven't read Peter's, but I've heard it was just nothing but what Peter does, complain. Because let's be honest, he was a complainer. This was the party. I think Gene was on stage was the show, and Paul was just the legendary frontman.
Well, here's my take on them. Personally, I got problems and bones to pick with all of them, but that's just differences in philosophy and politics or just whatever. But if you're going to believe anybody, I would definitely say it's Paul, because Paul, for better or worse, is way too upfront with his sensitivity. Things truly bothered him, and when something bothers you, it sticks with you. Like, you know, a video you saw yesterday, even though it was 30 years ago, and he throws plenty. I mean, he puts everything out there. I enjoyed the book except for like the first few chapters where he's crying about his ear.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, he's constantly pointing out his flaws and talking about how he needed to shrink at a grown age and was feeling sorry for himself after playing Madison Square Garden in a coffee shop. I mean, he doesn't hold any punches that way. He's the most articulate. Seems to me he would have the most, you know, good recall of how things went and wouldn't have a problem. I've heard him point out every mistake that he thinks the band made, whether I agree or not, over and over again. Gene Simmons is a self-promoting douchebag.
Oh,
so anything Gene tells you is going to be polished up like a turd, to where in the end he comes out looking like the one who was right, and he's the one that wants to make himself look good. I love how Peter has handled the lack of throwing dirt at each other in the modern times, but he was a bitter pain in the ass who basically let his wife play Yoko Ono and lead him around by the Johnson. And I wouldn't believe Ace Frehley if he told me water is wet. Someone who has been so fucked up his entire life on drugs and alcohol, do you really think he can recall anything accurately?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Are you going to take, you know, a fucking story that was on the news from the drunk at the bar who can barely stand upright? Fuck no.
No, absolutely not.
anything Ace has to say in one ear, right the fuck out the other. That's
And
just
Peter just likes to complain, and it just is. What are you complaining about? You're the drummer of what is the greatest, possibly one of the greatest rock bands of all time. What do you have to complain about?
well, and here's the other thing too. Now
Other
that you
than your
bring that
hands
up,
hurting. Other than your hands
right,
are hurting.
right, yeah.
Like,
Well, fucking cry for me.
soak
Try, yeah, I mean, try being a professional athlete and fucking having to play every day or once a week. You don't get to
Well,
cry about it. You just do it.
right.
But yeah, now that you bring that up, when you got two guys like Ace and Peter that are constantly bitching and whining, going back to their heyday, to when they were the biggest band in the world, constantly complaining about everything, bitching about contracts, bitching about not enough songs on an album, bitching about how the producers working them too hard, bitching because they have to tour too much. Have you ever met, I'm sure you all have, that person who bitches about everything at work? You know they embellish 90% of what they're fucking saying because they're fucking bitter. I don't place any kind of fucking accuracy in anything Peter or Ace would have to say when they were the ones who were the fucking problem.
Right. And honestly, I wasn't never the ones that hated Paul to find the truth out. I said, listen, this man is honestly telling the truth about the band. They were fuck ups. They were trying to hurt the band, so I had to cut off the bad fruit. And thank fuck he did, because that band just.
Oh, if they would have, and I get irritated with Scott because his take is he's totally on Ace's side with the you guys are touring too much. Take 2 or 3 years. No, you don't. You strike while the iron's hot. While you're on top, you keep yourself on top. You don't get on top and then go fucking fade into the background for 3 years and let someone else replace you. And if you're in a rock band, ain't just Kiss. Every rock band tours 100 to 200 fucking dates a year, especially back in the 70s and 80s. You fucking do it. You collect your check and you enjoy your life of not punching a time clock, answering to some douchebag at a job that you know more than.
Right.
I will never, ever accept that excuse that they toured too much, and I understand why Ace was stressed out. It was stressed out flying town to town, staying in fucking hotels, banging chicks, and working actually 3 hours a night.
How are you stressed out?
Yeah.
You stand there and play guitar. How are you stressed out about that? And it makes me wonder.
Most people live the life of a rock star and love doing it. If that's the case, and he wants to preach how this is rock and roll, this is okay, motherfucker. Well, rock and roll isn't sitting at home for 3 years.
Rock and roll is hard work.
Yeah.
I'll quote AC/DC. It's a long way to get to the top if you want to rock and roll. And it's the in truth, brother. It's the fucking truth. It's a lot of hard work. Years and years I put in, blood, sweat, and tears of playing guitar. That was hard work. Getting a fucking list, trying to tune by ear was fucking, being half deaf, nonetheless, is work in itself as well. When I'm playing, I don't know if I'm carrying a fucking tune. Or if I'm out of tune. I can't tell. I can tell by my feelings. And that's hard work.
To me, the whole thing is just a ridiculous argument to bitch about touring too much or always being in the studio. Imagine whoever your favorite baseball, football, basketball player is, right? Reaching the pinnacle, becoming Michael Jordan, becoming fucking whoever, the best in the business. Once you reach that, you say, yeah, I think I'm going to play, half as many games a year because it's just too much of a grind. You will be replaced in 2 seconds, just like when you're on top of the world in music. You take that to look what happened. Look at virtually overnight. Hair metal disappeared with the appearance of grunge. Now imagine if all the hair metal bands would have had the attitude of Ace Frehley and put out an album and then took 3 years off. Hair metal would have been in and out in a year. You cannot in a music industry. It's like nowadays, I liken it to these fucking when I grew up, TV series were like 40, 50 episodes a year. Every goddamn week, except for during the fucking summer. That was your rerun time. Now these fucking shows, you stream 8 episodes and then they're off for a fucking year. There's 9,000 options. You really think you're going to keep your stranglehold on the ratings when you fucking give people 8 hours of fucking, content for a year? No, you're going to find something else. Forget all about that one. That would be the same with music.
Right. And not to mention with the streaming servers, fuck all if you find anything good, because if you do, you got 10 more other damn shows that you're fucking still watching. And it's like, You're just like, what's to watch now? And it's just, but anyway, back to Paul Stanley. Rob, you said in a couple of videos that you mentioned that Crazy Nights, Asylum, I think also Animalized were Paul Stanley solo albums.
Yeah.
I agree. And 3 of those favorite albums of the 80s, or possibly those, are to go to for me as well. Because,
absolutely.
Well, one, Paul's voice outshines anyone on the record.
Yeah.
And, I mean, purposely so, because he fucking wrote the music, he produced the fucking albums. It's no surprise.
Well, he's got the talent. I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah. No,
there are some great singers out there. There were some great singers in the 80s. You had your Jim Gillette's and your Millie from Steelheart that could hit the ultra high notes. But pound for pound, the greatest rock voice in history, my opinion, 70s or 80s, but especially 80s, was Paul Stanley. No one could. There are countless just search YouTube of these singers that people claim are so great that are licking his boots saying what he did shouldn't even have fucking been possible.
Absolutely. And the thing I also have to say is, what was I just lost the train of thought. I'll come back. There it is. Is the factor that when Paul Stanley made these records, I think this was during Creatures. What in the fucking right mind was wrong with his chick to move from him, Paul Stanley, the greatest fucking frontman vocalist in fucking history, to go to fucking Dan Aykroyd, the fat chubby piece of shit?
Yeah, pudgy little fuck. Yeah,
and then he has the balls. And then Aykroyd has the balls to go on a radio show, voice in and saying, "Oh well, she left." Bro, you paid that bitch to leave him, guaranteed.
Yeah, and she was a nut job anyway. I'm sure Paul was in love with her and crushed obviously it's why he wrote "I Still Love You" and all this other stuff. But I read the book. This chick was as off the fucking reservation as you could possibly fucking be. How he didn't show her the fucking door way before that is beyond me. That just shows how emotionally unstable he was. They needed each other as a crutch or whatever. But yeah, what an ultimate fucking slap in the face. One of the best looking rock stars in one of the most prominent bands in the world gets left for little fat Ghostbuster.
Right. And the thing is that kills me is, I feel like when Paul falls in love, he becomes blind to it. I believe he's one of those guys that just gets completely romantic, honeymoon stage. It doesn't leave him, and that's where it fucks him in the end. And
well, he seems like he's got a good woman now, but he has definitely changed since he married her and had their litter. Obviously, he had Evan first, but he has become a completely different guy. Went from a cool rock star that you want to hear in an interview to an after school special about, everything's positive and just shut up. I mean, it's a good message if you're a motivational speaker. But you're a rock star. Yeah, you're a rock star. If you're getting interviewed by Gibson or whatever company's interviewing you, talk about life as a rock star. I'm not saying talk about screwing chicks. I'm saying represent yourself as a rock star, not as some sappy, washed up after school special sucker dad. I just don't like that image out of my rock stars.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You don't want to also put your kids out there and your personal life out there for the whole, world to see. But put some light to it. Maybe mention Evan's music career if he's got one, or his art if he's got one. You're Paul Stanley. That's your kid. he's gonna look up to you because you're fucking Paul Stanley. Well, that and you're
Yeah.
also dad. But
Well, that's the other annoying thing, though. I mean, if you want to promote your art project or your soul station or the fact that you want to do Facebook videos of cooking Brussels sprouts, I mean, if this is how you want to, promote yourself, wait till you've retired from being a rock star. You know what hurt Ozzy Osbourne in the eyes of a lot of people? The original Osbournes series. Just like
really,
as entertaining as I found Family Jewels for the first few seasons, he lost all credibility as the demon once you got to see him as regular Gene Simmons with a family. I mean, if it had been just a show about regular Gene Simmons or regular Ozzy in the studio, making record deals and stuff like that, you could have still looked at him as a rock star. But once you put yourself out there as a family guy or a painter or this or that, your status as a legendary, iconic, kick-ass rock star is in the past.
right? No, I agree. I agree. But what I think that what Ozzy was trying to do, well, Sharon says this a lot
Yeah.
sometimes, is that she was trying to show Ozzy not as Ozzy Osbourne, the rock star. She was trying to show Ozzy as Michael John Osbourne, the father. But it didn't go so well because the cameras followed him everywhere, on stage, rehearsals, TV interviews. He had no choice but to keep going to be the role of Ozzy Osbourne. And not to mention, some of it's sad to me because I'm watching one of my favorite singers, stoned, drunk, a broken shell of what he used to be. And I'm like, click, enough is enough.
But yeah, you just said a mouthful right there. That's
Right,
exactly what I was saying. Now
right.
imagine if you're not like you, a diehard Ozzy fan, or like me, a diehard Kiss fan, and you're watching this, you're thinking, wow, I thought Ozzy was badass. Fuck this guy. I'm on to the next
I
band.
felt the same way with Gene's Family Jewels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seasons 1, 2, great. But then you
Yeah.
have the drama between him and Sharon and the marriage. I'm like,
Well, the facelift thing was ridiculous.
right,
The way his kids disrespect him, it's unbelievable. I mean, not in a mean way, but they make fun of him like he's a joke, and he
right,
laughs along. I'm thinking, dude, do you realize what you're projecting to the world? You want to get out on whatever TV show or whatever interview and talk about what a god you are. But on the other hand, you're going to air this fucking show on purpose where your kids mock you for basically being a fucking doofus. You're going to
right.
run around on camera in a fucking onesie for pajamas. I mean, the demon died as soon as Family Jewels aired.
Amen to
Sorry.
that. I will. Amen to that. No, don't be, because I agree to that. The demon died as soon as that show came out. And I watched it with my dad, and my dad just looked at me and he's like, "You know who this is, right?" I was like, "No." Some random dude. He goes, "Bud, that's Gene Simmons." I said, "That's not Gene Simmons." I looked at my poster. I said, "That's Gene Simmons. That's not Gene Simmons." And he's like, "Fair enough." Clicked it. And it was
And,
just
and
sad, man.
I'm sure there's people out there saying, dude, they're entitled to their own, life, not
Right.
as a rock star, and they're entitled to put out whatever they want. And they're just showing that they're a regular person too. Okay. But you wonder why bands like AC/DC and Iron Maiden and Metallica and these other bands surpassed Kiss in the legitimate realm and being looked at and worshipped more than Kiss, because Kiss starting, and sorry, Scott, you're wrong, starting with putting blood in a comic book, making the world's cheesiest fucking movie, which I enjoyed. But these
Right.
are things that you cannot do if you want to be looked at as AC/DC, as Led Zeppelin. You don't see Robert Plant and Jimmy Page in onesies running around getting made fun of by their fucking kids. You don't see Jimmy Page or Robert Plant getting on every interview talking about how they were bullied as a kid and, oh, pity me. And you certainly don't see AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, these bands, Aerosmith, out there with fucking cartoons of themselves. I mean, you make yourself a fucking product for children of all ages, and you want to humanize yourself, but you want to be looked at as legitimate hard rock legends, you can't have both. You just can't have both.
No, but you mentioned Aerosmith. Steven Tyler got American Idol.
Yeah, but it was music related. He
Okay.
wasn't on American Idol crying about his childhood, or he wasn't on American Idol sitting there while the rest of the hosts made fun of him. He was still Steven fucking Tyler.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right about that. You're right about that. I'm not arguing that, but it's just the whole thing of rock stars. Okay, that's fine. Do your own reality thing, but it's just like, why though? What
my biggest thing with that is, short of women, sorry if there's the rare woman watching, you all are the most gullible motherfuckers on planet Earth to have made reality TV a thing in the first place. Because anybody who would logically sit back and say, this is real. How real would you be if you knew there was a camera on you 24/7 for millions of people in the world to watch? You would alter the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you dress, your reactions to things, your overreactions to things. There is nothing real about reality TV unless they do one like the Truman Show with Jim Carrey, where they had no idea they were on camera. That's the only way you would ever get true reality TV. All of these are scripted. All of these are fucking take after take. That's reality TV, and women made it a thing because they're a sucker for drama, whether it's real or not.
Absolutely agreeable with that. Reality TV is 100% scripted. Do you
really think they're going to drop two people off naked in the jungle and say, fend for yourself? They'd be dead within an hour.
An hour. Yeah. If they knew what they were doing, maybe, but
one fucking spider bites them and they're dead. I mean, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, naked and afraid.
Right. I mean, I put myself in that situation. I wouldn't last fucking a half hour. I'd last like 5 minutes.
No, absolutely.
And I'd start bitching. And I'd start fucking bitching. Because let's face it, my generation are a bunch of crybabies. I admit that. Shout out to my brother John. I love John. I do. He's my brother.
Is this the guy? Is this the guy I was sparring with on Facebook?
Yes, he's my brother, and I love him for this reason. The best way I could describe him, John, if you're watching, if you do watch, I'm sorry to say this, but you are Cartman grown up. If you want the best opinion on John, just likes to throw his gasoline on fire sometimes, and I love him for that.
That's my kind of guy, and that's why we ended up just a few hours ago just agreeing to disagree. So whatever.
I'm looking at my phone, watching this all happen. I'm like, God, he's gonna get me kicked off the show. I'm like, John, shut up, please. I had to intervene something. I'm like, to be fair, I don't like Hulk Hogan. I mean, I do, but I'm just like, I found it funny.
I don't care. I still agree to disagree, and nobody out there knows what we're talking about, so I won't make this long. My whole point was the epic booing for Hogan on this newest WWE thing. I will squarely defend was because of his backing of Trump. And he comes back and said, Taker backs Trump, and he was cheered. Yes, but Taker backed Trump in news media interviews. Hogan was at Trump rallies. His comments were plastered all over every news outlet. And when you go to the most liberal state on the planet for a wrestling event, absolutely, that's fresh in their minds. It has nothing to do with this supposed racism stuff, which I still attest. You can't hold people accountable when you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s for the way you talk and the words you use, because life was different back then. And any of you live 30, 40 years, and then all of a sudden the world becomes butthurt over everything. Let's see you be able to process that quick to censor everything you fucking say. And just because you say it doesn't mean it's actually racist. If it was, then every black hip hop artist, actor, and comedian would be considered racist because they use the N word like white people use the word the. So it is what it is, man. People talk the way they talk.
And
That's the
honestly,
way it goes.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And coming from someone from a bunch of crybaby generation, such as myself, I'm not a crybaby. I like old school. I like people
I love it.
that are. I love Gen. I'm sorry to say I love Gen X people because I have gotten so much knowledge from them, and it just my life just makes more sense when I listen to this knowledge.
We
And
were
it's
basically put here to fend for ourselves from a very
right,
early age. We were out at 7, 8 years old riding bike all over the city, not just back and forth on the sidewalk with your parents holding the seat. No, you fell down. You made jumps and slammed your head in the tree branch above you because you weren't thinking straight that when you go up in the air, so does your head. I mean, we
right.
got up, we picked the gravel out of our goddamn wounds, and we
Mm-hmm.
fucking went on and we talk shit to people, we get our ass beat. That's the way it was.
That
We
no
were tough.
exactly. No, exactly. I agree with that. That's exactly how that was. My father raised me like that.
Yeah.
100% raised me like that. He put me out. He didn't let me stay in the house play fucking video games all day. He's like, "Get your
No.
ass. What are you doing? I'm watching TV. No, you're
Goddamn
not.
right.
Get your ass up. Go outside."
What's the first thing a Gen Xer's parents said when you started being annoying around the house? Get the
Get the
hell
fuck out
outside.
of
I
my
don't want to see you till dinner. And they
Right.
didn't give a shit where you went. Now you can say that's bad parenting or not. It made us tough. It made us self-reliant. And as far as words never, yes, everybody's bullied, Paul Stanley. All right. Little kids will make fun of other little kids in elementary school for being fat, for having braces, for having a big nose. You cry about it. You fucking get up, you go the next day, and you quickly learn I've got to give some shit back to them to take the focus off me, not go hide in a safe space and need counseling as a fucking elementary school kid to get over your fucking bullshit, let alone carry it into your 60s when you write a book, clearly still talking about it like it's still traumatizing him. It's ridiculous. And that's why I came unglued with that. I don't give a shit what Hogan said. I don't care if Michael Jackson was diddling kids. I like his music. I don't give a
Thank
fuck
you.
what he does. I don't give a fuck what he does as a kid. He could be an axe murderer. Not my problem. If he didn't murder anybody I know, hey, what's your next single? That's the way I am. So whether someone's racist, homophobic, xenophobic, fucking whatever, I don't care. That is not going to alter my enjoyment of what they're offering me. So I could give two shits. And when people let stuff like that, anybody, including John, you, if you're listening, have said something at some point in your life that could get you banned on social media. So to sit back and try to fucking hold something against somebody who said something in what was supposed to be a private setting years ago and label that as their entire aura and being, and that's who they are, is the most unfair, ridiculous thing you can ever do, because nobody is without fault. Nobody's without making a racial slur or a gay joke or anything else. You're all guilty. You just like to point the finger at celebrities and judge them, but you don't want to be judged yourself because you're
Right.
perfect. I can't do that. I can't. And I don't care. OJ Simpson, I don't give a shit what he did towards the end of his career. He's a great football player.
He was a great
What
football
you
player.
do and what you say off of that stage or out of the limelight, off of the camera, or a doctor who may be, doing some illegal shit in his personal life, doesn't change the fact that he's a great fucking doctor. And I will never let someone's personal life sway my opinion of how I feel. Politics comes close, but only when they are personally attacking their fans who think like I do. Paul and Gene could have said anything they wanted about COVID and their beliefs, but it was a line in the sand when they then accused anybody who felt opposite as being an evil person. That's where I draw the line. That's it.
And what I think people seem to forget. I was joking when I said I don't like Hogan. People don't realize is that Hogan paved the way for the WWE.
Yeah. And I was going to come
Regardless of
back with that.
regardless if he
Back
was
with that.
booed or not, you cannot change the fact that that man paved the way for the WWE.
Well, let's
And
look at what wrestling was before Hulk Hogan. Wrestling was territorial by state and region, was not televised, and if it was on some local station. There was no network, there was no
nope,
Raw, there was no fucking anything. The closest was WCW, first starting as
WCW,
NWA. They had Saturdays and Sundays shows, but the ratings were nothing until Ric Flair got there.
right?
So without Ric Flair and without Hulk Hogan, there would be
And
no
the Von
fucking
Erichs.
John. Yeah, there'll be no Undertaker. There'd be no John Cena. There'd be no Rock. There'd be none of these guys. There would certainly be no big traveling wrestling events that pack in 10,000 fucking plus people. There would damn sure not be a WrestleMania, which is one of the most attended events in history. You
Sold out
owe
every
all
year.
of that. You owe all of that. And the same with these bitter asshole wrestlers like Bret Hart and some of these fuckers who do nothing but trash Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan. Bitch, you owe your entire career, the house you're living in, everything you have to these two men. So shut up.
Thank you. And have a nice day.
Anyway, this was supposed to be about Paul Stanley, but this is Toons Brothers. And what would Toons
Right.
Brothers be without irrelevant rants out of nowhere?
Absolutely. Back to Paul Stanley. And the fact of all the matter is, that's what makes Paul Stanley also a great frontman. He cut out bullshit and performed on that stage. He said, listen, once I go on that stage, it's done. What we want to discuss is backstage. Vinnie Vincent, for example, had to cut out his solo because he was taking too long. Paul Stanley had a way of doing things. Unfortunately, the reasons why guys like Tommy Thayer and Eric Carr lasted so long, and Bruce, is because they went along with Paul.
It's a formula.
It's a formula. If you don't go along with the formula, you're gonna have problems. I mean,
it's funny you bring up Vinny because I just watched a video that came up on my stream literally yesterday of a time when Slash was playing on stage with Michael Jackson at a Michael Jackson concert. Now, if you think a Kiss show is scripted to the second, Michael Jackson's shows were the ultimate script, and you didn't fucking go off script for even 2 seconds. And the video was basically to poke fun at Michael Jackson because you could see him getting irritated because he's trying to do his moves to end the song. And Slash was going on like a 9-minute guitar tangent and wouldn't fucking stop. That is unacceptable to and you can come back to me and say, well, I like it where they can just ad lib and stuff. Yeah, to an extent. It was fun when they'd throw Oh Susanna in or something like that in the Revenge Days live. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, you don't want a clusterfuck shit show with no goddamn direction either.
Right. And, when it comes to that, shit shows, Kiss had a couple of them, especially in the Dynasty era, I believe. People weren't buying tickets, people weren't showing up. And I really don't think it had anything to do with going disco because they were always, like I said, this is why I love Kiss. They had to go with the flow. Disco was hot at the time. I love disco. I actually do. Thank you, Rob, for bringing my life back to disco.
So do I.
And the thing is, they had to go with the flow, and disco was hot, so they had to come out with something disco-y. Dynasty, to me, I used to hate that album. I go back and listen to it. It's actually not that bad.
No.
It's danceable. It's notable. It's good. I mean, it's not a masterpiece, but it's well put together. And
for me, more than the disco, which was only one song, really.
Yeah.
It was their image that, to me, it killed them in my eyes. It didn't kill them because I eat, breathe, sleep, shit, Kiss until the reunion. And that's when I started to, you're going backwards. Yes, nostalgia, it was great. I had goosebumps. I had tears in my eyes when I got to see it. But at the same time, musically, you were going backwards. You replaced two top-notch, world-renowned players with average aging and declining players. You went back to a catalog so isolated that doesn't showcase your musical relevance with today's music. Everything about that to me was a mistake other than the payday. But their image, if I'm putting myself 5 years older than I actually was around Dynasty, so I'd be a late teenager instead of a 12-year-old, I would have been pissed too, because my black and white and silver metal band was out there in fucking bright colors. And I think that the look that the band took on with Dynasty and Unmasked was more of a detriment to them than the sound.
Right. And like
you listen with your eyes, right? That's one thing Paul told Blackie Lawless a long time ago. Don't worry, they'll listen with their eyes. So be as crazy as you fucking can. Well, there you go. If somebody listens to I Was Made for Loving You leading off Dynasty, but then here's the rest of the album and they can't see you, they're going to think, well, I didn't really care for that first song, but the rest of this is good. But once they see it, you can't unsee it. So if they're listening to Dynasty while looking at the pictures of them in these goofy fucking colorful outfits instead of being badass Kiss, now the sound, if it ain't there to take away from that image, it's twice as bad.
And, the thing is, what also killed them too is they went from black and white, leather, metal studs and spikes, fire. I mean, they still had the fire breathing, but to comic book superheroes.
Yeah.
The merchandise, and like you said, Rob, their image is what killed the band. I mean, coworkers that don't do their jobs also are a problem, but you can only drag something on for so long and it becomes stale. I think it's because they were honestly going stale.
And
great,
too many
you became
people,
superheroes. You don't got to throw on a cape.
No, that's And
you don't got to throw on a cape.
Too many people are on this. Well, imagine if Kiss never took that makeup off. They'd have been dead.
They would have been dead at that time.
The only fucking reason they didn't die is because they made that splash. They transformed themselves. You can't just say, okay, we'll get rid of the Unmasked and Dynasty look and go back to Hotter Than Hell look. No, the damage was done. You now had to completely change who you were, and you had to change to be like every other hot band. You had David Lee Roth. You had fucking Vince Neil. You had all these good-looking frontmen who were looking badass and current with the fashion. And you had people who just weren't jiving with the makeup stuff anymore. You had to take that makeup off. Now, if your singer would have looked like Vinnie Vincent, you'd have probably been dead in the water.
Oh,
but luckily, you had Paul Stanley as your front man. So it actually increased it. It brought more of the younger generation in. There is so much that band did wrong. And then when they corrected, the diehard Kiss fans, scream and cry about it. No. You have to correct by not going back to what you were, by staying relevant with what's going on. The music world changes so fucking fast. AC/DC is rare. Look at all the shit Metallica took after the Black Album when fucking Hammett comes out in black nail polish and eyeliner and all. They got ripped to fucking shreds for about 3 or 4 years, starting with that Black Album. But you know what that Black Album did? It took them from an underground band with one, no pun intended, one song that anybody really fucking knew who wasn't a speed metal fan, and made them the biggest band on the planet. Why? Because they transitioned their sound into something more relevant instead of something underground. You can't have it both ways. Like I said, AC/DC is the rare exception, and I will go to my grave saying, why? I don't get it. They had no look. They had no gimmick except for a little dork in a fucking schoolboy outfit ripping off Chuck Berry's Move. Every song has the same 3 fucking chords. I will never understand how they maintained that popularity through all those different genres, but more power to them that they did. Most bands have to change with the time.
No, absolutely, 100%, absolutely on that. And the only reason why I said ditch the cape, keep the costumes, but you don't need to add a superhero cape. I get it. You're trying to maintain a superhero image, but you don't
Well,
need
I
the
didn't
cape
mind
to
the
do that.
colors either, but
Right, the colors
Ace's
great.
Ace's V thing, his chest gear. I mean, it stood this far up above his shoulder. They were getting
You could see his
bigger.
head.
Gene came out in what looked like somebody just crumpled up a bunch of tinfoil and wrapped it around him. It looked horrific. Paul looked cool and Peter looked
Right.
cool, but Ace and Gene looked like fucking ridiculous cartoon
They look like
characters.
cartoons. Right, I was about to say they look like cartoons,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know.
And how did Ace go from the electric blue on the solo album to pastel fucking blue on fucking Dynasty's costume? I mean, the
I don't
electric
know.
blue is cool. Pastel blue is gay. Sorry. There I go. There I go. I just used a word that John might label me as some kind of homophobic. No, it's just
No,
a
he won't.
word, man. It's an expression. That's it.
No, he
Anyway.
won't. He won't. John likes to troll sometimes. That's how he is. Love you, John. But anyway, it like you said, the pastel blue it didn't really do good at all. It just, again, I get the image, and like you said, the image kind of killed the band. And then at the time, if they were to take the makeup off, it would have killed them. I mean,
but the only one who did it right, because this is a Paul Stanley podcast today, is Paul Stanley. You look at every era they went through after Rock and Roll Over Love Gun days, right? Once they went into the questionable areas, you got Unmasked, Dynasty, Elder, whatever, and going forward through the 80s. The only one who looked the part and looked cool was Paul.
Stanley.
Everybody else, even Bruce Kulick and Eric Carr, looked ridiculous with their fucking fur fucking armbands, all this fur around their fucking knees and shit. Looked ridiculous. Gene looked like a transvestite. It was horrible. Paul looked cool all the way through. Paul, after cutting his hair, those fucking Elder fucking photo shoots, I love that fucking outfit. He still looks like a rock star. This is why Paul Stanley is Kiss and always has been Kiss. His voice, his look, his persona, his confidence, on stage at least, everything about this man, the charisma, great front man, everything you could want. And that's why they hung around. Not because of Gene, not because of his marketing, not because Ace Frehley is so funny, making an ass out of the band on some interview in the 70s. Had nothing to do with any of those guys. Look at the songwriting credits and total them up and see where Paul comes out.
Paul made that band survive.
Yes.
Paul is the reason. And let me tell you this. Paul had a vision. And every time he changed, I guarantee you he had that vision and stuck with the vision. It's like, listen, I know where this band's going. They don't. I do. So I'm going to look the part. And every time, like you said, he did that. Whether it was Elder, Dynasty, Hotter Than Hell, Lick It Up, Asylum, whatever. He looked the best.
Yes.
The best. Even if he had that little stubble and every time I look at you video, he had to look brokenhearted. Like he went on a 5-day bender, and he still looked good.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Paul knew how to dress. Paul knew how to act. And Paul knew what to and what not to say back then in personal interviews, in band interviews. He held the image together while Gene was doing everything. They like to point at Ace and Peter, and rightfully so, for trying to derail this band. I don't know if anybody tried harder subconsciously to destroy this band than Gene in the 80s. I mean, imagine if we take Scott's preference of take 3 years off so Ace and Peter are happy. Let them live. Okay. So now instead of one epically horrible fucking movie, a C flick, not even a B flick, with Tom Selleck, I can't even believe Tom Selleck let this be released. Runaway. Instead of having to overcome that one shit show and reestablish yourself in the rock world, Paul would have had to deal with Gene doing 2 and 3 of these fucking things, completely destroying, because it's a band. It's not Rick Springfield, Billy Idol. You're a band. So now Gene doing all of this horrible, horrible fucking work in Hollywood, completely derailing any credibility Kiss has as a band, whether it's fair or not. That's the way it works. When one member completely sells out to something, it reflects on the whole fucking band. If they take these 3 years off and Paul would let these idiots go on fucking Ace Frehley, go on drug and poker benders, and Peter Criss fucking rip up hotel rooms, and this band would have been so dead so fast. Gene would have had his ass in every fucking, softcore porn movie with Shannon. Horrible acting by both of them, by the way. How the fuck she gets any credit for anything, I have no idea. I just can't say enough bad things about Gene and Shannon. They are just a huge part of the fucking problem that was Kiss.
I believe that. I honestly believe that. I do. If
her obsession with wanting Gene to transform into Hollywood behind the scenes, not like she wasn't Yoko Ono trying to fuck with Kiss's image, but she was so desperately trying to. She's a typical old school woman, right? She show me a man and I'll show you someone I can fix. Instead of accepting him for who he was, she was trying so hard to change him into her Hollywood dream. What she didn't realize is she was never an A-list actress. She was a B and C-list actress in movies that nobody's ever fucking seen. If she would have never been in fucking Playboy, she would have never been known by anybody. And this is what she was trying to turn him into.
I didn't even know she had movies. I didn't know she did
them.
Any. Honest to God. All right. Well, I know Sharon was evil, but I didn't know Shannon,
Shannon is a whore from the word go. Period. Has been forever. And we'll go on forever. A Diamond Dallas Page comes to mind. My wife would never be allowed to pose nude for the world, let alone be in a softcore porn movie or something. Never fucking happen.
I would be like Peter Criss in a hotel room. I would flip my leg.
Yeah. So the fact that she wants him to be Hollywood when her version of Hollywood is low rent Hollywood would have been detrimental to the band. This wasn't just Gene pushing for that. Give me a fucking break.
Right.
His head was so far up her ass and still is. He was doing everything to be larger than life the way she wanted him to be. Meanwhile, on every possible episode of Family Jewels, the bitch is talking about how she can't stand Kiss music and this and that. I'm thinking, that's a good formula. That way to pump up your fucking image and your band's image. Let's have a TV show where your wife can't stand your fucking life's work. That's fabulous. You can't even lie for the camera, you fucking cunt. I can't stand her. My wife would want to beat the shit out of her if she ever saw her. She can't stand whorish chicks like that to begin with. But yeah. So anyway, Paul Stanley had every right to keep their ass focused in the studio and on the road, because everyone, not just Ace and Peter, Gene too, would have self-destructed in one way or another, making horrible career and personal life decisions.
Well, one, Ace would have died of an overdose. Peter Criss would have ended up getting fucking arrested, because even if you are a fucking rock star, you are not fucking untouchable.
And Peter clearly had little man syndrome, right? You know what little man syndrome is? These little 5'5" guys who have to fucking. I have it. So he would have probably gotten himself killed in a bar fight thinking he was a tough guy.
Absolutely. I understand you like gangster flicks, you collect guns. Yeah. That's one thing, but you're not I understand you. I mean, I'm not knocking it.
He's Italian, so. Hey,
but he did come from Brooklyn.
I'm Peter Criss.
But he did come from Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is a tough area of New York, I will say.
That doesn't mean you're tough.
Good point. And again,
do you really think Joe Pesci is tough in real life?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely. He just plays a tough guy. One hell of a good tough guy, but again, I think what I've seen, he's the nicest guy to talk to when he's not in front of a
I love
camera.
his work. I'm just saying, if you believe because you're Italian with an accent and you come from fucking New York that you're a tough guy.
That doesn't make
Robert
you a
De
tough
Niro,
guy.
De Niro, same thing. He goes around talking about how he'll whoop Trump's ass and all this shit. The dude could probably barely get off the toilet. All these guys are short, these Italian tough guy motherfuckers. The only thing that made these mobsters tough was the gun they were holding. It had nothing. It's just like gangbangers today, right? You got these gangbangers who weigh 95 pounds soaking wet thinking they're tough. Put the gun down, then go up to the fucking, innocent bystanders that you're going to fucking mug and see what happens.
Right. And, honestly, I just don't understand this generation at all. They put down the guns and get in a fist fight. If you get your ass beat,
that's the way we did it.
Stand the fuck up and fight again. You don't need a gun. These are guns. You don't need a gun.
There's no finality with a fist fight. And I'm not promoting people fight. I'm saying that's the way we grew up. Never once did we think to grab a weapon. You either beat their ass or they beat your ass. You got up, most of the time shook hands, and it was over.
Right.
Nobody lost their fucking life.
And it's just, to me, it's getting too far. Now, I'm not saying take away people's guns. Obviously protect your house. Whatever you got to do, that's you. That's fine. But I don't need. I mean, I just don't understand why. And it's just see it on the news every fucking day. It just pisses me off.
Like, I understand. I understand why. Normal people want them because if they don't have them, the bad guys are always going to have them.
Yeah, but you got to kill them.
None of them are getting them legally. So you got to have some way to defend your home, right? I get that. And I understand why these little gangbangers do it because they're a bunch of pussies that can only be tough if they have a gun backing them up. Period.
And, it's stupid reasons too, man. Stupid fucking reasons. They got fucking people killing people over a fucking chick, man. I'll be damned if I'm gonna kill somebody over a chick, bro. I'll be damned. Or a little bit of fucking pot or whatever, I understand, people make their money how they ever want to make their money, but you don't gotta kill somebody over it.
Well, the other thing that's huge now is don't disrespect me.
Man,
respect is earned. Bitch. And if somebody doesn't respect you, who gives a fuck?
Gives a fuck. Thank you.
This entitled attitude that this young generation has that you gotta show me respect. I watch these cop arrest videos all the time, so I laugh my ass up when the cops beat these fuckers to the ground who think they're tough. They're gonna square off against the cops.
Right. I'm like,
you got a billy club, a gun, a taser, and oh, by the way, 3 other officers. Yeah, you're gonna get far with your fucking tough guy. You show me respect. You disrespect me, bitch. I'm the cop. I'm the law. You shut your mouth and you do what you're fucking told, and you'll get through this.
Right.
But coming up like some tough guy demanding respect is going to get you dead.
Absolutely. And, one thing my dad always said to me, mind your fucking business. 3 simple words that my generation and future generations are just not going to understand. Oh, well, you said that, like you said, you said that. I said, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I said it. So fucking what? Get over it.
Yeah.
Cry me a fucking river, man.
Okay, so rant number 4 or 5.
I love how we just honestly we're supposed to be Paul Stanley. We're just kind of winging it. I'm having fun.
I like winging it. I could give a shit less. I hope the viewers, I hope the viewers enjoy it too. I wish more podcasts were like this. Unfortunately, most podcasts will tell you what you want to hear, a hint at it in the title, and then you'll watch it for 25 fucking minutes while they're talking
and they don't talk about it fucking
it really helps our channel when you like and subscribe, and for more great content, shut the fuck up and talk to me.
Right. No, I get that. And
that's what I want.
And the best thing about this is, what amazes me is how the fuck did the Ultimate Sin video grow over 1K viewers. I got a text early morning. I woke up, I rub my eyes, and I go, what? I go to YouTube and I check the view, and I'm like, holy shit. And it bothers me because you had the legend fucking Danny Vaughn on the show. And when as soon as you told me that, I'm like, why? You had Danny Vaughn.
Let me tell you a story of how this channel has transformed probably long before. I've had this channel for about 3 years. It started out with just me talking about music. Then I added Darren. We went through several name changes from Gen X Jukebox to rock hard music to everything. And me and Darren's goal was to promote these bands, to talk about Taiketo, to talk about Hardline, to talk about the 80s hair metal bands that in our minds were far better and more talented than the Motley Crues, the Poisons, and everybody else who made it. No disrespect to them. But we always were looking for new music. And the best hair metal music came out of the very late 80s to early 90s before grunge. That's what we wanted to talk about. Nobody gave a fuck. We were talking about 30 views per fucking video.
Wow.
So quickly, I had to fucking make a decision. We just basically fucking got tired of rebranding and just stopped. And then Scott was watching one of my Kiss videos and reached out to me and said, because I had made a video saying I'd probably thrown in the fucking towel here. And he's like, no, let's do a Kiss channel. So then we did that, but then subscriptions slowed way down because Kiss is only going to bring you so many viewers.
Right.
If you look at Three Sides of the Coin, Podcast Rock City, these other, they're not getting any more views than we are. And they've been doing this for years.
Right.
Because Kiss has probably the most dedicated fan base in the world for any genre of music.
No, 100%.
But most of them are 50, 60 years old. They've got families, they've got lives, they don't live on YouTube. So we're never going to do numbers of a political podcast or some content creator who this is how you fucking solve this software issue. We're never going to do that. Music just does. Nowadays, if we had been able to do this, if the internet existed in this way in the 80s, we'd have been as big as Joe Rogan.
Oh,
but
yeah, for sure.
Nobody cares about music passionately anymore, especially millennials, Gen Z, and whatever's going to come after them. It's let me turn on my streaming service, listen to that one fucking song. They have no idea there's a new album from the band until it shows up on the radio. That dedication is not there. So we're trying to be inclusive to all people in what I would argue the last genre of fans who seek out to talk about, listen, and research the music they loved back in their day. Because all of us, you're a rare exception, thanks to your father.
Oh, absolutely.
But for we're going to be, most of my fans, when I do the breakdown of my demographics, even on my other reaction channel, it's 80 to 90% male. Well, it's about 95% male and about 80 to 90% 50 years and older. Because boomers and Gen X are the last generation who have any dedication and loyalty and passion for whatever it is, whether it's their favorite TV show, movie, actor, music in this case. Nobody else has that dedication to anything anymore.
And
all
honestly,
the generations after.
I feel like I'm a rare breed of them because,
like
you said, my father, grew up in the 80s. He was born in 66. He grew up in the 80s. So, he passed down whatever he had, knowledge he had of the 80s and gave it to me and said, one day you're going to use this knowledge and you're going to use it. I don't know for what, but you're going to use it. You're going to have it. You're not going to listen to this rap bullshit that's out there. He would not let me listen to Eminem. He would let me listen to NWO because it was in his time period. NWA. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's New World Order. And I'm going to get comments for that one. I'll tell you that. Just memorized. He'd be like, listen, it's all garbage. It's crap. Here's some music. This is music right here. Triumph. Def Leppard.
Oh, God. Yes, Triumph.
Taiketo.
See, there's a good story. Your dad was so fucking cool. And the way I would have been if I ever had fucking kids. I watch, and my wife's brother, my brother-in-law, is teeters on the doorstep of almost being a millennial, but he was on that doorstep towards the end of Gen Z. And the way he raised his son musically sickens me, because he had no influence on him. And to me, at a young teenage age, before I was 16 and able to legally work, I went to work for my uncle doing contracting business that he had on the side. So it was just me and him and his boombox. And he was constantly playing Queen and Sweet and ELO and showing me what he thought was great music. I'm a fan of all three of those bands. I've just been queened out. But they became three big staples in my life. I look at his son, and he likes AC/DC only because his dad does. Other than that, the fucking kid is like 16 years old. He's a fucking Nirvana fan. How the fuck does that happen with someone 16 years old? That music has been dead and irrelevant forever. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. And the thing that pissed me off more than anything is we went to Minot State Fair, which is 100 miles away, for a KISS outdoor concert. Sold out, right? We wanted to take his kid. And at the time, he was like 12, whatever, and show him, because we knew the road was ending soon. Obviously, this is before end of the road, but to give this kid the chance to see the most epic fucking live band ever. Kid was stoked. They'd go to the fucking cabin about 80 miles away on the way to Minot and do their outdoorsy crap that I've never been into. I said, we'll pick him up at the cabin. The way back, we'll drop him back off. No. And it wasn't because he didn't want his kid in Minot. He thought that, it wasn't important for Kellen to get this experience. His name was Kellen, the kid. And to me, that is inexcusable. Whether he was a KISS fan as the dad or not, I would never, ever have told my teenager they couldn't see the biggest, most iconic band in history because I wasn't interested. That would never happen.
I would have gone to a lot more concerts, in New Jersey when I was living in New Jersey at the time. It wasn't the issue of my father saying, you can't go. He would go, I would love for you to go, and I would go with you, but we can't afford it.
That's different.
We were poor. We were poor.
We were going to buy this kid the ticket. We were going to pick him up and drop him back off at their little weekend getaway. You know how I went to my first KISS concert at 10 years old, Creatures of the Night? My mom was on a bowling league every Thursday night. Wow. My dad was MIA. I didn't know my dad for most of my life until I was in my mid to late teens. So my mom wasn't taking me to no fucking KISS concert, but one of the women on her bowling league and her husband were big KISS fans. So they volunteered to take me. So me and my brother and my neighbor went with them because my mom knew how much I loved KISS. That's a parent. And a parent should always, from a young age, be grooming that child into music. Always, because music will become, if done properly, the soundtrack to a child's life. And they will hold those memories for the rest of their life that they may have otherwise forgotten. But a song was so integral, even if it was in the background, that now whatever that life event was will always be there. Music is so important, and to be passive about it, and I love my brother-in-law, great guy, but I strongly disagree with the way he handled music in a young boy's life, especially.
No, that's just not right to do. I agree with that.
I mean, I can't imagine.
I feel bad, honestly. I feel bad.
For me, growing up with the legendary bands we did, I would feel like such a failure if my son's favorite band would be Nirvana. After everything I had to offer, I would feel like such a failure.
I came home with a Nirvana CD. My dad looked at it and said, "That's nice. Please do not put that in my stereo."
Yeah, I wouldn't have forbid it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying my kid would have been taught at such an early age what real music was that fucking would have never appealed to him. That's
Oh
what
no,
I'm
no, he just listened to it. It's like that. He was like, "What the fuck is this shit?" So it sounds like he's screaming in a microphone. I can do that.
Yeah.
And we both kind of laughed, chuckled it off. I kind of just put the CD back in, threw it on my bed, and I never listened to it again.
And if my son would have had that as an interest as well, that would have been one thing. But if that was the mainstay and he was not giving anything prior consideration, he'd have known everything prior before grunge was even an option, before rap was even an option. So at least he would have a musical education to what he could then judge the music of the day against to see if it really measures up or not. To just dismiss music in your kid's life and let them find their own way is such a disservice to that kid.
I mean, this is the man himself right here in photo. Probably can't really see it, but
not really, but
his hair's all poofy. His hair's all poofy like Robert Plant, because I believe my father was a Robert Plant fan as well. I thought that was funny.
There you go. Much better. Much better.
You know, he had tattoos, wore glasses, had the 80s hair, man. He was like, he didn't push it anything on me. Like, I would listen to other bands like My Chemical Romance, Black Veil Brides, you know, the shit bands like that.
And then you're going to. Every kid's going to listen to what's relevant. But my point is, this kid, grunge was not relevant.
No.
It was gone. For years before this kid was even old enough to know what music was, grunge was gone. And that's what he somehow latched onto? How does that even happen? It's not like grunge and Nirvana are a cult following like AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, and Kiss and Alice Cooper and stuff. That don't exist. That to me, if you're a grunge fan 10 years after grunge was a thing because you're that young, that would be like being a punk fan, some underground hippie music type thing that is so obscure and obsolete. I mean, I don't understand how that happened. I just don't get it.
No, and the thing is, like, what I don't understand is how the hell did we go from bands like Taiketo, Triumph, Queen, oh, let's go on with the list. Shit. Led Zeppelin to anybody to the music that we have today. And on that note, I will be right back. I gotta take a piss.
Absolutely.
Oh.
So there we go, everybody. We're supposed to be doing a discussion about Paul Stanley and his solo career. We have yet to get to his solo career, but we're having a good time just fucking freeballing it here since, you know, other members of this podcast don't deem us important enough to be here. Much like three sides of the coin rips each other, right? Or other ones aren't there. They don't matter anyway. Whoever's here is the only ones that matter. Fortunately, that will always be me because I'm the only one with the intelligence and the drive to actually do the podcast, do the editing, the know-how. So take that, everybody. Scott, Darren. Hopefully we will find a time to do that Kiss album. I don't know, Glenn, if you're listening, if it will be with you or not. I certainly hope so, but the time frame thing is so hard apparently for Scott and Darren to follow, the time difference, that it just might not be feasible unless it's on a weekend. Okay. The lizard is drained.
Whew. Too much Dr. Pepper, man. I switched from brain rotting juice to stomach rotting juice.
Well, either we've made a lot of fans with this conversation or we pissed a whole lot of people off. Either
Well,
way, I'm happy because I like praise, but even more than praise, I like, comment fights. So I'm down for that.
with me, it's I don't do this for the views. I did this because I watched a
It's
podcast
cathartic.
that was, huh?
It's cathartic.
No, it is. I watched the podcast for this because I liked the way you guys talked about music. I wanted to do this because I wanted to be a part of it. And lo and behold, granted,
Well,
I
let's
wasn't
let's get
expecting
to something that'll really piss Scott off here. Let's get to
Eddie Van
this
Halen.
album. This album right here.
Best fucking solo album ever. Fight
Now
me.
we're not going to rank this. This is an off the cuff fucking video, but I get so tired. Tired. See, Scott, I'm going to lump you in with those original 4 OnlyFans. No matter how much you like to say you like 80s Kiss, you fucking do nothing but
Oh,
bitch
Scott was here.
about songs like fucking Bang Bang You and Read My Body and
Those are good songs.
ballads and everything else. So you hinted that you couldn't stand this album. And to that, I give you the double bird. This fucking album. Stop trying to fucking think it's supposed to be a 78 Paul solo album. This was a side project of his done in, guess what? Relevant to the times music. And he knocks this out of the fucking park. Now, you can argue the ballads on this album are way too Air Supply and not enough I Still Love You. That's what was intended. And he does it flawlessly. I will also say, if you haven't checked out, any of you out there, Paul's duet with Sarah Brightman, the classical opera singer, you need to hear that fucking song. Paul's voice is so epic. There's a reason why he was cast in Phantom of the Opera. And it started, I guarantee you, people looked at Odyssey, at some of the stuff he was doing on his 78 solo album. He had a lot of strong operatic. He may not have liked it. He may be embarrassed about it today. He maybe didn't want to do it. But unlike Paul, who refuses to acknowledge things he doesn't like, you cannot deny the vocal talent that went into that song Odyssey. I dare any of you metalheads, go ahead and try to sing it just one fucking time and record it and send it to me. And we'll go ahead and react to it.
I mean, the most I could do, Rob, is the live performances I Was Made for Loving You during the Unmasked tour when he hit that fucking high note and smiled. I can hit that note while it's playing in the background, while it's in my fucking ears. Yeah. Otherwise, I couldn't hit that note by itself a cappella.
That is one of my favorite videos ever. It's in my favorites on YouTube.
Stanley
Just because he effortlessly looks right at the camera and goes, opens his mouth with a smile, wide-eyed, not squinting. No, and it just, it's effortless. Absolutely effortless.
Effortless. No effort at all. He just goes, and just smirks. And I'm like, Paul, you smart ass.
Yeah. It's almost like he's taunting. Video. Yeah, let's you do this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, 100. I knew he did that for a reason. There must have been a reason at his heart for something for that. But my favorite one is during the, I guess it was either the farewell tour or during the reunion or Psycho Circus, it kind of looks like, where Gene stops the show because the band just starts to jam and just gives the fucking finger to Ace. Paul goes over to Gene and was like, what the fuck is that for? And he goes, let's see what the Ace Frehley band wants to play next. And you know what he does? Rocket Lied, a song that he knows Gene can't play for shit, and just goes on his guitar, fuck you. And I'm like, see, if there's a rare time for Ace, that would be one of the reasons why I like Ace. He's not afraid to go off script and go, fuck you, man, Rocket Lied. Those are the moments I like about the band sometimes. Those funny moments. But
it was rare. It was rare when they do stuff like that.
But that effortless singing and just that smile, and it's like, fuck. Yeah.
But that Live to Win album, I tell you,
Oh,
and this may be a problem the way Scott and other people who may not like it. When that first came up, when it was about to come out, there was a website you could go to and sample like
yep.
3 or 4 songs, right? Little 30-second clips. And it
I
was
remember
late at
that.
night, and I was sitting on my computer, and I'm just going through it at normal, listening volume for just overall, surfing. And I'm thinking, man, I keep clicking songs. I don't know. That's kind of disappointing. When I got that fucking CD and I turned that motherfucker up in my car with my fucking Bose system, Jesus Christ, it transforms it into a completely different album.
Oh yeah.
Where Angels Dare, Live to Win, It's All About You,
Yep.
Bulletproof. There are some fucking Lift. You want to talk about a dark
Lift is an
fucking,
amazing song on that album.
oh, fuck.
Oh my
Great
fucking
fucking
god, man.
song.
And if you guys ever do a list for that album, I'm telling you right now, spoiler alert, that's my number one. It's one of my favorites on that album. And oh my god. I just wish Paul Stanley did more of that. Even in the 80s. Even in the 80s all the way through the 90s. I would have been fine with that.
Well, you see how versatile he is when you look at Carnival of Souls, Jungle, and fucking.
They say it's an incomplete album.
I'm just saying you can see how
I don't
Paul's
know why.
darkness,
It's
his
good.
darkness is so good. He could do anything he wants. And what did Gene do with this grunge experiment? It was more
Try to sound
death
like
metal
Alice in
voice.
Chains.
It was more of a death metal voice than anything else.
Yeah.
That song "Hate," that piece of garbage. Just Paul is Kiss, people. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're an
100%.
Ace Frehley lover. I don't care if you're a Peter Criss, Eric Carr, Gene Simmons, whoever you are. If you don't know by now, after 50 years, that everything Kiss accomplished is basically on the shoulders of Paul Stanley, even the songs he didn't sing because he said whether or not it could even be on the fucking album. I don't know what to fucking tell you. And looking at his solo works, whether it's 78, whether it's Live to Win, looking at him do the transfer over to, whether you call it dark metal or grunge with Carnival of Souls, there's nothing this guy couldn't do. And tell Monster when he completely lost touch with himself.
I think they all lost touch with themselves when it came to Monster. I think they were all high or drunk. Whoever came up.
You really can't blame Eric and Tommy
No, I don't
because
blame
they
them.
really weren't allowed to even be themselves, even back to fucking Sonic Boom. Tommy was forced to do lightning and space songs. Fucking Eric was forced to do the nothing to lose type, oh, good time, rock and rolls. I mean, they weren't allowed to write what they wanted to write.
I'm not blaming them per se. I'm talking more like whoever thought, whatever mindset Gene and Paul were during Monster. I don't know, man. At that point in time, you just say hang it up at that point. I think after Sonic Boom, they should have just said hang it up.
It's amazing to me, the progression, right? Because Gene hit his ultimate stride on Revenge.
Yes, by far.
And then you can cut him some slack with Carnival of Souls. It was rushed, and he was out of his element, music genre wise. But when you come back to Sonic Boom, even Psycho Circus, Gene wasn't really Gene, other than Within. He was more of his 78, softer side of Gene, right?
At least we didn't get Once Upon a Star Gene.
Yeah. But then you get into Sonic Boom, and he was much more Asylum Gene. Then you get into Monster, and it's just garbage. It seems like Revenge took everything out of him. Finally, he recaptured the demon. And then it was fucking gone. You saw one hint of it with the song Within, in my opinion. But even songs I liked on Sonic Boom, like Russian Roulette and stuff, that was more Asylum, Hot in the Shade Gene. And oddly enough, now Revenge, he was still makeup free and became the demon. He puts the makeup back on and completely forgets how to be the demon in the studio.
Shit, I'm honestly glad that we did this, Rob, because I'm going to have to really completely redo my whole fucking list. I gotta
And I
go
don't
back.
hate, other than Monster, I
Fuck.
don't hate those albums. I don't hate the Gene songs
No,
other than
I don't.
Monster.
It's not
It's
that I
just
don't hate them. It's just
if you really look at it, you can't
I
help
feel
but
like he didn't
say,
care.
yeah. I mean,
I
what
felt like he didn't
happened?
care.
No
I think he
makeup.
just I think he just lost interest, to be honest with
That's
you.
what I'm thinking.
I
And
think
I'm
he
thinking the
literally
whole
just lost
band did.
interest.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, and Scott will argue with me because he's emotional about the original four. That reunion absolutely fucking destroyed Kiss in any credible light as creators. They, from that day on, whether
They
you
should
put
have
out
went right
Psycho
back.
Circus, Sonic Boom, or Monster or not, judging by the half-assed job on those three albums, that turned them into a nostalgia band who, just out of obligation, maybe to a record company or something, dabbled in putting three albums out. But there was no fire. There
There
was
was
no
no obligation.
creativity. There was nothing. How Psycho Circus came out of that album is a godsend. Not that the rest of the songs are bad, but Psycho Circus is the real Kiss song. I mean,
Yeah.
and people, I don't, the people who fucking say they hate, say, yeah, that's, I want you, Kiss fucking power.
Thank you. Say yeah is
Never
I want you
enough.
kiss power. Never
Yeah,
enough.
never enough.
Never enough.
Very tomorrow and
Powerful.
tonight, I stole your love. Paul's the only one who had any prowess on Psycho Circus and Sonic Boom. Him and Gene both shit the bed on fucking Monster. Carnival of Souls, like I said, you really can't judge because they were trying to be something they weren't.
I mean,
But
Paul's
even
voice was
then,
kind of there on
Paul
Hell
did the best
Hallelujah.
job.
Yeah, and even on Hell Hallelujah, Paul is kind of shines on that
Yeah.
song too.
Even
And
modern day Delilah, which I don't
he
like,
shines.
Paul's still got that approach.
Let
But
me
Gene,
talk
how
about
you
that
go
song for a
from
second.
what's that?
Let me talk about that song for a second. I read somewhere where they call that the next deuce. How the
Oh yeah,
fuck do you call that the next deuce? You don't play it. They've only played it for what I understand 4 times that I can remember, and then
I'll
they
do one better.
stopped playing it.
I'll give you a better question, and there are several bands who have done this.
Same set
Lillian
list for
Axe.
30 years.
I went to a Lillian Axe show,
Oof.
a band I loved from the late '80s, early '90s. It's just a guitar player now, so I've lost interest because the new singer just no. But they are as obscure as you can get now. They had
Really?
they had some push with their their second and third albums, but have since become just a
Shell.
timestamp in history. Right. So they're at a festival, and I go to a festival because that's where all the old hair bands go because they're not relevant enough to play by themselves. I'm looking forward to this. I never got to see them in their heyday. I know it's a singer I don't care for, but it's the original guitars who I loved back in the day. And they open their set with a song off their brand new album. You were at a festival full of 50 plus year olds for the most part, diehard hair metal fans who last knew your hits on MTV. And you are going to open with a song off an album that came out a year prior that these fucking people have never heard. Rewind, Kiss doing that with modern day Delilah. I could not believe the YouTube videos. I don't know what tour it was where they opened the show. Paul wants to sit there on his goddamn fucking pity party box and tell people the reason they don't play, the rare songs is because these are not all diehard fans, so they want to hear the hits. And out of the other side of his fucking mouth, wants to open the show with a brand new song that nobody who isn't a diehard Kiss fan has even fucking heard before. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Honest to God, Rob, I wish that they would play music from the Elder songs. I wish they would have played other songs. Now, I understand where Paul is coming from when he says, I can't hit these high notes anymore. I get that. But you could at least have Gene play I or something.
Hey,
Something from a different
you've got an MVP behind the drum kit that could sing 3 or 4 fucking Peter Criss songs. You could do
Mhm.
Getaway, you could do fucking Mainline, you could even do Strange Ways. Eric Singer can do that perfectly.
With the final end of the road tour, they should have stuck with the side B songs and mid songs that did not get enough attention at the time, like Mainline, fucking uh, Getaway, Watching You,
Flaming Youth. Jesus
Flaming
Christ.
You, thank you, Flaming You, thank you. Something, Great Expectations. As much
Yeah.
as I don't like that song, one reason
The point is if it was Paul and his limitations vocally that
I'd
was
understand that.
hindering them to just certain songs, then you've got songs by other members you could have offset it with. Take 3 or 4
Right,
songs away from Paul in the set. It's not like Gene and Peter and Ace didn't have songs that were well known. Obviously not as well known as Paul because most of Kiss's big songs were Paul. But still, you could have alleviated a lot of that by just,
right.
spreading the wealth out there and letting other people take on some responsibility.
And if you can't sing it, great time to get the crowd involved. Let your crowd sing it sometimes. If you
Oh,
can't
Darren
hit
would
that high
hate
note,
that.
if you
Darren
can,
would hate that.
I'm sure he would.
I
But
pay all this fucking money to hear the band sing. Dude, there's nothing better than crowd sing-alongs. If you
there is
can't
nothing better.
understand, there is a video out there of
At
Gary
that
Cherone
point,
and Nuno Betancourt in the Extreme Days doing More Than Words, the acoustic song. It is on my favorites in YouTube, and I wish I had it on a studio, produced album. They're trying to sing More Than Words. The crowd is so fucking loud singing along with them that they stop playing and just are in awe and
and
let the
let the
crowd take lines at a time. I get goosebumps all over that. If you don't cherish and appreciate, I don't care if you think the crowd's singing off key. I don't care if you paid to see the musicians sing. It is something amazing to have an arena full of people singing your song, man. How can a musician not get off on that? I get off on it as a member of the audience.
right. And honestly, it's at that point in time where every fan becomes family and the magic
Yes.
is in the fucking air.
Now,
You
there
know what I
are
mean?
exceptions. There are your Vince Neils, and to an extent, Brett Michaels was bad about this before he quit smoking decades ago, where almost every other word, they'll just hold the microphone out and it's just a way for them to not have to sing it. That's
I
different. But doing
honest,
sing-along parts and letting the crowd sing, whoa, we're halfway there, and then you come back and say living on a prayer, that's fucking cool,
right. That's
as
fucking
long as it's
great.
getting the response.
Right. And the thing is, one thing I do have to credit for Vince Neil doing is stopping a show and saying, I can't do this no more. Then go
Yes.
backstage and do not come back out. Do not
Yeah.
come back out. Don't say you're going to make another tour date. At that point, that's when he should have realized I should hang it up.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for Mick Mars, man. The
Yeah.
shit he put up with Tom,
You know,
Tommy and Nikki and Vince. He was the
and
oldest
out of
member of
that
that band.
band, he's the only true musician.
Yeah. He was he's a blues guitar player. He
Yeah.
was more blues, and they want him to play rock. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't you dare slander the one person that
No.
carried your fucking band throughout your entire time of being a
Tommy
band.
Lee got so much fucking credit because of his visual that nobody ever talks about the lack of substance to his playing.
He's an idiot.
Well, he is. He's the world's biggest fucking moron. I mean, he should be wearing a helmet and having a fucking cork on the end of his fork. I mean, he's a fucking absolute reject. The idea was laughable about him, that reality show going back to college. I'm like, bitch, try elementary school. He should have been Billy Madison part 2 and had to start over with fucking elementary school.
No, the thing is,
But Nikki Sixx, there's rumors that he's been fucking faking it for fucking decades.
I believe
And
it.
that he was never really that good to begin with. Tommy Lee's drumming is garage band, quality at best. Vince Neil could sing his ass off for the first half of his career, and I don't fault anybody for losing power and vocal damage. That happens. What I have a problem with, if you've seen these videos of the last few years since he came back as Fat Vince Neil, the videos where they just make up words that sounds like he's
find
singing,
them fucking hysterical.
they're fucking hilarious. But I'm thinking, who the fuck would pay money for this? Because he's not even saying words. He's like, I'm like,
how did they allow that to go on?
How the fuck are you getting paid? I don't understand. He's not even trying.
He's not.
I mean, at least Paul Stanley's trying as his voice is breaking. Vince Neil's just making sounds.
I mean, and that's why I love Paul. At least Paul admitted, yes, I'm using backing tracks, but what do you expect me to do? You want me to sound like I did 30, 40 plus years ago? Listen to the first few records. He's like, guys, I'm not gonna hit those vocals in Heaven's on Fire. I'm not gonna hit those vocals for Tears Are Falling. Granted, he did try one tour, and honestly, I think he pulled it off. Very close.
I've seen him do Tears Are Falling pretty much 4 or 5 times since the reunion, and that's
my favorite Paul Stanley song.
Yeah, he's fucking amazing with that. The one Paul Stanley thing we will get to, not on this, not the side railing, I just want to bring it up before I forget. This will be a video in the near future.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I will not say another word about it, but that will be a video.
Oh, I love that one. That's a great fucking... Oh, my
I could watch that motherfucker every day.
Yes.
Even the house band is entertaining to watch, or his backup band, whatever you want to call them.
His song,
and I think weren't they the band that did that In Excess? I think they were the band who was the backing band for that In Excess. So there was some kind of fucking reality show where they were the band, the house band. I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it was when In Excess was looking for another. No, that wouldn't make sense to replace the band. But it was something like that, to where they were the house band to some fucking reality show or some contest show or something like that. And they are some fucking ringers, especially that fucking bassist.
Metal is that like the Metal Camp or that Rockstar Camp?
Yeah.
Gene Simmons School of Rock or something like that.
Yeah, that fucking bass player from Russia is so fucking badass. We will definitely do a video on that. Even if it is just me and you, because the others don't seem to care too much about doing videos anymore.
Well, like I said, the only time that poor guys, man, I love you guys, but man, I try to be nice, but on all honesty, fucking shit. What was I gonna say?
Lost your train of thought again?
Yeah, god damn it, Rob. Fuck, I lost my train of thought. God dang it. Alright. It'll come back to me, I'm sure. Fuck, man. Damn it, Rob. Fuck. That one caught me off guard, too. Totally forgot what the fuck I was gonna say, man.
That's Darren's texting me right now.
Oh, is he? Oh, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Usually every Wednesday, I don't get out of work till 8:30.
Hey, the Wednesday thing being, and that's about the time we do it. I tried to do this to accommodate Glenn for the fucking the Kiss album thing.
No.
Because of the 6-hour time difference, and it's just getting too hard. I mean, we had the 6-7 hour time difference with Danny Vaughn, which I will make exceptions all day long for legendary musicians. But
that one was my fault. I was already at work when that happened, and I was so bummed out.
Here's what happens. I mean, Darren's got a job where he works regular hours till 5 p.m., and then he's got to have dinner and do whatever with his family. Can't fault, even though I'm busting his balls in this video.
Right.
It's very hard for him. I'm not sure what Scott does. He never really lets on what he does. He thinks he's mysterious, but he's just stupid. you've got a fucking job. I've got a fucking job. So it's
Right.
nothing against these people overseas. I absolutely love having them. But I think going forward here, if you're overseas and you want to be on this show, you're gonna have to do it on a fucking weekend.
Yep.
That it's just there's too many of us who have regular fucking jobs, and for us to do it at a decent time, your time, we're in the middle of our workday. It's
And
just too fucking hard.
right. And the only times during the week that I'm usually late, getting home late, is Wednesdays and looks like Sundays lately. Uh, Middle of the week, I get out 2, 3 o'clock, sometimes 4. You know, and like I said, we have jobs. It pays the bills.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I couldn't go
yeah.
to
This
mine
is this
today
is
because I
just for
was not
fucking
in.
fun. I mean,
Right. Absolutely.
we're not podcasters for a living. We're not even fucking monetized on this channel. So.
Right. Absolutely. Like I stated before, this podcast. I wanted to be a Tunes Brothers, and I mean that in the bottom of my heart. Uh, and the thing is, we all have jobs, and just pays the bills, man. And
Yeah.
overseas, it's understandable. Weekends, man.
Yep. Going
I
on
agree.
forward, it has to be weekends. The only
Right,
way I'll make an exception is if you are a professional musician from a band in our heyday. Then I'll fucking do it whenever.
man. I'm not gonna lie. I am still crushed that I missed Danny.
I know. I tried to reach out to you, man. I
Fucking
just
bro, when you texted me, I was like, I wanted to cry, bro. I literally started tearing up. I looked up in the sky and I'm like, I'm so sorry, Dad. I didn't get to meet your child. Did not get to meet your hero. And let me tell you, my dad was in a band called Black and Blue. To this day, I wonder
whoa,
if
whoa,
it's the
whoa, whoa,
same.
whoa, 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 whoa. The Black and Blue?
I'm questioning that myself because my father
Tommy
said that
Thayr's Black and Blue?
because he knew somebody that played guitar and could play anything, and his name was Frank something or something that matter. And he always told me that he either left or got kicked out or something, and they moved forward and became big. And he looked at the covers of it, and not one thing was credited to him. That's what he claimed. I'm just saying what he said to me. I'm not saying if it's the Black and Blue. It could have been just like, him calling it Black and Blue or something. But my father told me that he was in a band called Black and Blue before Black and Blue was big or even a name.
And who was the guy that could play anything?
I forget his name. My dad said it was Frank something. Frank something. He could have changed his name when they got big. I'm not saying this is the same band.
Well, that's just kind of what I was wondering because I'm seeing Jamie
I
St.
wonder that
James,
myself because my dad was a
Patrick Young, Pete Holmes, Brandon Cook, Mick Caldwell, Tommy Thayer, Virgil Ripper, Barry Pendergrass, Jeff Whoop Warner, Sean Sonashine, Bobby Kapka, and Doug Rappaport. But that don't mean nothing if he was in an incarnation before they
Yeah,
became big
no.
or
That's
whatever.
what I'm saying. I mean, I think they were I don't know if he called themselves Black and Blue. And I said, "Wait, Dad, are you talking about the Black and Blue, Tommy Thayer Black?" He goes, "Yeah, I was in that band before they were big." And
Well, that could be. A
my
lot of these
father never
bands
lied to me, as
a
far as I
lot
knew.
of these bands, whether it's Poison, Rat, they go through so many different incarnations before they even get signed that you'd be amazed how many bands actually how many members of different bands. I mean, look at Britney Fox. I mean, two of the members were members of Cinderella.
Right. Hell, my dad worked with Lita Ford's studio guitarist.
Yeah. So I mean, you never know.
Brought me home an autographed picture of Lita Ford and him, signed by Lita Ford, and a keyboard that was in the studio.
Wow.
That Lita Ford actually put her fingers on. I put that
Wow.
son bitch in my closet, and that became my report of my keyboard session. Dude, there were demos on that keyboard
Wow.
that were from the eras of If I Close My Eyes Forever. I shit you not.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's peak Lita
Outtakes.
Ford. That's when she was at
Outtakes.
her biggest.
The outtakes, bro, her voice. shivers down my spine, bro. And I'm not making this up. I had it, and it fucking shit happens. Not
Yeah,
gonna mention
yeah.
anything, but
There's a lot of shit I wish I would have held on to over the years.
I had guitars, I had a bass, I had that keyboard, pedals, chords, amps. I had it all, man. I had enough to
Yeah.
make a musical studio in my
I
apartment.
had an entire, if you know what a ranch house is, a ranch style home.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
basement, the entire one big room, the length of the fucking entire house with extra rooms. I had the main basement filled with so much amps, pedals, mics, mic stands, guitars, professional lighting,
Did it get stolen?
everything you could fucking think of. I started to lose interest in music in my 30s and I fucking sold everything.
Ah, oh, damn.
And I could fucking just kill myself. I mean, it's whatever. It is what it
Yeah,
is.
shit happens, man. Shit does
Yeah.
happen like that.
Yeah.
Fucking yeah, no. Overseas, like I said, the only times that I work late is Wednesdays and Sundays. During the week is always good. For some odd reasons, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
We'll figure it out. We got to
Yeah, we
kind of
will,
get
man.
back to brass tacks here anyway and
Yeah, oh
start
yeah.
knocking out some actual topics instead of setting all this. The celebrity thing that'll probably never happen again. I fell into that only because Danny watches my other channel when I do Taiketo reactions. So he reached out to me a long time ago already over my reactions to Taiketo.
Never say
That's
never.
That's the only reason that. Well, it won't, dude, because I badmouth everybody except for, a rare few.
Well,
So,
didn't Scott say he was
I mean,
trying
the
to get a hold
odds
of
of
Peter
Ace
Chris?
Frehley ever watching this show and agreeing to come on here are the odds of getting hit by lightning 3 times in a row.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. I mean, I do remember Scott saying he was trying to get a hold of Peter Chris, but
good luck. I don't think anybody gets hold of I don't. You rarely even see an interview with Peter Chris.
We're like the Howard Stern.
Source.
We're like the Howard Stern of podcasts.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. You got to have a thick skin to be on this fucking podcast.
Absolutely.
Because chances are, if you're in a professional band from the hair metal days, even if I love you, I've said some bad shit about you because I'm honest.
Right. And honestly,
and I sometimes feel bad because you'll listen. If you really listen, not to the Kiss drama, but if you really listen to other musicians when they're asked about other bands, they don't ever say a bad word because it's like a mutual respect.
Right.
I'm not like that. I will appreciate someone has talent, Axl Rose. That doesn't mean I don't think he sounds like shit. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. So I don't expect any of these professionals to want to be on my show. That's fine. That's not why I'm doing this. Right, I'm not doing this to become the next Eddie Trunk. I'm doing this just for fucking a way to talk music.
Oh no, absolutely, and that's why I liked you guys. You guys are honest. You guys are you. You're not trying to be something that you guys are not.
And I sure as hell am not going to be I'm not going to be the Tommy Summers. No disrespect, Tommy. I met you at that festival, Rock Timber. You were super cool, but I will never be that guy who's all sunshine and rainbows and always saying positive things about things. That will never be me.
I try to only because in my heart, I
would love if it was true, but it never is.
But right, but it just I can be an asshole. To me, it just takes so much energy to do it, and I'm at the point
and I can be that way.
No, yeah,
I can be that way about any other topic. But when we're talking about music, the thing I've always been since a young child to 51 years old now, the most passionate about. I don't have that's okay opinion on music. Either it moves me or it fucking annoys me. Right. And if it annoys me, I can't just dismiss that by saying, oh, it's okay. That's a fraud. If I feel passionately enough about it to have a strong distaste, it does nobody any good if I come on here and fucking lie about it or lie by omission and just not say anything. If I cannot stand something, you're gonna fucking know it. That's just the way it is.
And I'm like this. If you want the truth, I'm gonna give it to you. If you want if you want sugar, go eat a fucking donut. Yeah. Okay. I'm not the person to sugarcoat shit. and
Yeah.
I never once was. And a lot of people don't like me because I have a mouth and I tend to use it. It may get me in trouble, but
Dude, you should see all the hate I get on my reaction channel when I have the nerve to say something bad about someone's band or song. Oh my God, you'd think I was fucking evil incarnate. Or my favorite thing is, obviously you don't know anything about music. Let's see you do it. Fucking irrelevant. That is the
what about
most
that
irrelevant
no name?
argument. That's the most irrelevant
This is
art. Could
fucking
you
no
do
name.
it? It doesn't fucking matter if I can do it. I can hear it, and I hear it
Right.
sounds like shit. To say that you can't have an educated opinion because you don't do it yourself, you realize what that means? You go to a restaurant, and if someone makes you filet mignon, as I like to say, filet mignon, and fucking it's fucking got a dead fly, and then half of it is fucking raw, but half of it is burnt, and you fucking go on Yelp and say this is fucking disgusting, and somebody, as long as they come back and say, well, can you make it? If your answer is no, your opinion's not valid.
Right.
Bullshit.
Listen,
Bullshit.
let me tell you, I'm not. I'll be the first one to tell you, I am not good at this podcast thing. I am still putting my fucking toe in the water. You know what? It's clear, crystal clear. I'm annoying as fuck. But you know what? I don't need to be good at something to do it.
That's right.
You know, I don't need to be good at something. I don't need to be educatedly knowledgeable about music to know something sucks.
Yeah, if I want to say Eddie Van Halen is overrated, doesn't
Yes.
matter if I can play Eddie Van Halen stuff. Overrated means he gets way too much credit for way too little. That's all. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying I'm better, but I have a right to an opinion, even if I can't do what he does.
Right, but although Rob, it is true. Eddie Van Halen that's the truth though. Eddie Van Halen is just an overrated guitar player.
Absolutely. I give him all the credit in the world, but if Eddie Van Halen wasn't the first to make a splash with the tapping and everything else, and he was the third, he would not have this legendary status. It's because he was an innovator, and let's be honest, Van Halen fans, innovator in the fact that he was the first one to bring it to mainstream. The shit was done way before him.
Absolutely.
But if he didn't innovate the way he did, he wouldn't get this great respect. I'm not saying he wasn't great then. I'm saying he's not as good as you think he is. He was just the first to bring you a very different style. And if he had been third and Vito Bratta would have been first, Vito Bratta would have that respect, which he should, because he does fingerboarding 800 times better than Eddie Van Halen ever did.
Talk about fingerboarding, Michelangelo Badio. I don't think there is one guitarist. I don't think there's one fucking guitarist that can play two fucking necks without looking at them and not miss a single fucking
and then flip upside down with both hands and do
and flip it and play like a fucking piano. There's not one guitarist. I don't care if you're Steve Vai, Eddie Van Halen. There's not one single guitarist on this planet that could do that. And if you can, show me and I'll put a sock in it.
That's it. He's an absolute freak of nature. That doesn't mean I like all the stuff he does, because I'm not a shredder guy. I was a huge Nitro fan, but more for Jim Gillette's high-pitched voice than I was for Michelangelo's guitar playing.
I find
Michelangelo. Now, if you listen to Michelangelo's solo stuff, his instrumental stuff, the man has what he portrays in a rock band is just to hit the rock band stuff. That motherfucker, he can play classical, anything, so beautiful. I'm just saying, I love the first Nitro album. I love the second one better because everything's toned down.
Don't get me started.
That first one reminds me a lot of Vinnie Vincent Invasion's first album, to where the guitar solos are always on, fast forward, and it doesn't fit. Not saying it's not impressive. I'm saying that he just didn't do a good job of blending the sound to the song. The second album, he knocks it out of the fucking park.
No, I agree. I prefer Nitro's second album over the first.
Absolutely.
Most surprisingly, honestly, my dad even was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I prefer the second over the first one."
Jim
Michelangelo
Gillette
Bedio.
sings instead of just
No, he's
screams.
good.
And Michelangelo's playing melodic instead of just shredding.
Right. And when they switched over to Michelangelo's shredding, and then you have I'm sorry, I'm not good with names. You have their lead singer singing like
Jim
that,
Gillette.
Jim Gillette, just singing like that. It becomes a masterpiece. But I dare say this: Michelangelo Bedio is the Mozart of guitarists.
Oh, it ain't even
I
close.
will.
It ain't even
I
close.
will.
There ain't nobody. And you can give me all the legends you want: Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, Pat Travers, blah 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 blah. Nobody. There's nobody, past, present, or future, that will ever touch Michelangelo Bedio as far as what he can do on the guitar. Doesn't mean he's my favorite player.
Right.
But what he can do just in pure speed and coverage from fret 1 to fret 24 on one neck, let alone two at the same time, cannot be replicated.
Fucking phenomenal. And so, I mean, the one I could arguably say that could beat him with talent, Jakey Lee.
Not speed,
but technique wise.
Yeah.
I don't think that. Well, like you said, Rob, there's no one speed wise that can touch Michelangelo Bedio.
It'll never happen. He's like one of those fucking prodigy kids you see on a piano at 5 years old, which is proof of, living, a second time around and tapping into your past life. Playing Mozart type shit at 5 years old at a blinding speed. I mean, he's just gifted. He's special. And it just is a once in a lifetime guy.
And Rob, if we would have somebody famous again on the show, I would choose Michelangelo Bedio.
I would love.
And he is such a.
He's I've seen interviews. Yeah, he's a goofball too. I fucking love it.
100%. That's what I heard. He's a goofball, down to earth guy, honest. I mean, for fuck's sakes, Rob, I had his hair in 12th grade. I loved him so much. I wanted to be him. There's
a fucking guy. There's a movie, and we're dating back to my early 20s. And I'll have to find it. There's a movie he was in. Ooh. Playing guitar with the multiple necks. Just a fucking D-list type fucking movie. I found it at one video store back before DVDs, when you were renting VHS tapes. And I forget the fucking movie. Just like there's a movie Alice Cooper was in as an evil bad guy. Horrible fucking movie. I don't know if it's Prince of Darkness or something like
that. Freddy is Dead. Nightmare on Elm Street.
No. This was Alice Cooper was the lead.
He was the lead. Okay.
This is like terrible cinema from the fucking 70s. I mean, I think it was called Prince of Darkness or something like that. Yeah, horrible fucking movie.
Chop 'em dead.
Cooper. Chop 'em dead. Yes, that's the Michelangelo Bedio one.
1991.
Yes. What's the Alice Cooper movie?
The Alice Cooper movie, that would be, oh gosh, I'm looking it up. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, he was in several movies though, man.
It's going to be his earliest one.
Prince of Darkness. That's the one. 1987. Yeah. There's 78. Goes back 78 with Sergeant Pepper's.
Absolutely fucking horrible movie. So if you're one of those people who likes bad, cheesy horror type movies, check it out. Check it out.
I love horror movies, bro. I love horror movies.
Me too. I'm a huge horror movie fan.
I like I've always said, and I will always repeat myself. I don't care. People hate me for it. I am an old soul. I am not one of these cancel fucks that just shit on great music because they don't like it because it offends them. No, I was not born from that era. I'm an old soul. I was raised in the 80s. I might as well be born in the fucking 80s. That's how I look at it. Anything 80s, anything 80s, 70s, 80s, even the 60s.
See, I 50s, grew up 40s. Obviously born in 73, so I was, 1 to 7 in the 70s, but you absorb shit so clearly at that
like
age.
A sponge.
And my parents were so fucking cool. I was watching Porky's before I was in junior high. Halloween 2, all that shit. We had no filters. I was raised the right way without a fucking filter. And I have tremendous preference for 70s and 80s TV and music. No matter how cheesy. Saved by the Bell, fucking fabulous fucking show.
Fucking good show.
Fabulous fucking show.
Taxi.
One
of my fucking favorite sitcoms
Cheers.
of all time.
I was watching
Cheers,
Alice.
man.
Yeah, I was watching Alice, Different Strokes, Three's Company, Jefferson's, the All in the Family. That's the shit I grew up on. Yes. So
Boomerang, bro. 5 o'clock in the morning, Cartoon Network.
Yep.
Boomerang.
Call it cheesy, call it what you want. But if you like cheesy horror movies, man, watch Prince of Darkness.
I gotta see that. I haven't watched that one yet. But
all right, well, I think we're at just top 2 hours, so we might as well wind this down.
Cool.
All right, so I am not going to assign homework until I find out when the other 2 deadbeats can actually show some commitment to the channel.
Come on, guys.
Yes.
I'm excited for this Last Kiss album because I want to shit on Monster so bad.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Bad. I will wait now and see if I get any reply. I reached out to Glenn on fucking Facebook and on email today, and he's the one that picked the day today, and I haven't heard one peep from him. So as much as I love you and I love your takes, and you're my brother from another mother with our takes on Kiss, this weekend or bust, I can't hold this album off anymore. This is one of the oldest things on the slate besides the one I'm not looking forward to in Diver Down. So
what am I working Sunday? Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, like I said, it's just I'm off for the weekend. I took time off. So Saturday for us, for most of us, would be preferable.
Fuck, I close Sunday, but I'm out 2 o'clock on Sunday. Cool.
You're what?
I mean, no, I close Sunday, but I'm off 2 o'clock. I'm out at work at 2 o'clock on Saturday.
Saturday. So Saturday will work. Saturday.
Yeah, 2 o'clock.
Okay.
I'll be home by 2:30, 3 o'clock.
We'll see. I'm not putting it. I'm just letting Glenn know if he watches this. If not, I'll let him know via, text or whatever, or not text.
I didn't realize we're alive.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been fun for me. I like this kind of fucking format to just fucking go where the conversation takes you.
It's the best.
I know this is a music podcast and not a fucking everything else, but you know what? Sometimes it's cool to just branch out. Music led us to social issues, to fucking, old movies, to whatever. That's fun for me. I don't like a format that has to just start somewhere and end in the same place.
And it's only because I knew that we were supposed to do a podcast tonight, and you texted me, and I was like, you know what? Let's just do. I have an idea. Maybe we just do something. Fucking wing it. Maybe see how it goes. If it goes good, sweet. If it doesn't, well, we tried.
Then don't watch. I'm sure nobody's watching at 2 hours and 4 minutes in here, but
no,
that's all right.
I'm sure people will watch it.
It's fun for me. This is one of my favorite episodes I've ever done.
Dude, I've had a blast, and I wish it couldn't end. I could go on all day, all night. But
thanks for being available when nobody else was.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I would have been at work having for the snow.
Right. Gotcha. All right, everybody, we're out of here then. Until next time, thanks for watching.